It's actually a pleasure for me to be here tonight and to have the opportunity to speak to this gathering of Chicago's best and brightest, as well as the people who make sure that you know you're not always so smart, your children. You are the remarkable leaders of the major industries that keep Chicago's shoulders so big. As for me, I make cartoons. But I think even though my little animation company might seem to be quite unrelated to your various enterprises, I believe that at its heart, it has considerable relevance to what many of you do. This is because at the core of animation is something every successful business needs, and that's innovation. Just think about it. Animated films quite literally create their own reality. Nothing that you see on screen is real. It doesn't really exist. Every moment of every movie starts with a blank page and then comes into existence through intricate combinations of human ingenuity, imagination, and artistry. Actually, I'm not sure what could be more innovative than that. You might say animation is the ultimate example of reverse engineering. Ordinary movies start in the real world and then capture it on film at 24 frames per second. Animated movies actually work backwards, starting with those individual frames and image by image build an entire world of their own. For the past 25 years, I've come to love creating and living in these worlds, and I can assure you that it is only getting more and more amazing. I've learned a few lessons on the subject, and I'd like to share some of them with you tonight. The biggest lesson I've learned is that innovation comes in two basic varieties. Sometimes it's an act of pure invention, like Edison devising the light bulb, or the Wright brothers flying the first airplane, or Einstein coming up with the theory of relativity. But just as often, it's actually about reinvention. For example, think about some of the current prime models of innovation today. There's Google, which is revolutionizing the way we learn about and explore our world. Of course, Google didn't actually invent search, but it has taken technology and the internet to allow search to be taken to a whole new level for millions of people every hour of every day. Or consider the iPhone, a pretty magical device. Somehow, as soon as you place it in your hands for the very first time, you immediately know how to use it. The iPhone has completely reconceived how a cell phone looks, feels, and functions. But the underlying invention came many decades ago, namely the telephone itself, a device that forever altered communication. The list of reinventive innovation goes on and on. The Prius, wind turbines, Kindle, digital photography, Facebook, Twitter, all of these are incredible improvements on things that already existed. And this is the kind of innovation that's been going on in animation, as the medium has been repeatedly reinvented over the last quarter century. I first got involved in animation when I arrived at Disney as head of the studio in 1984. On my very first day on the job, Disney CEO Michael Eisner called me into his office, and he pointed out the window to a building across the way and said, "Do you know what they do over there?" And I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Well, that's where they make the animated movies." And I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yes, that's your problem." Around the time we were starting DreamWorks Animation, Toy Story was released, ushering in the era of computer-generated animation. At DreamWorks, we produced a CG movie of our own called Ants, and then in 2001 came Shrek. Shrek was a huge success and won the first Academy Award for Best Animated Film. Nevertheless, we had continued to produce hand-drawn films. This is where our roots were. This was what we knew intimately well, and this had been the source of enormous long-term success. Besides, in a very competitive market, we had worked very hard and very long to assemble a team of 800 highly talented and traditionally trained artists and technicians. Because we knew hand-drawn animation so well, it provided a tremendous sense of comfort and safety. However, safety can be a dangerous thing. This is because when you feel safe, you can become very hesitant to give up old ways of doing things. And that's a little bit about what happened to us. We hesitated to accept the full significance of computer animation and spent longer than we should have keeping pencils in our animators' hands. In much the same way, I suppose General Motors kept making too many big trucks and SUVs when the auto market was moving to more fuel-efficient vehicles. Then when gas hit $4, the company was devastated. Fortunately, we were willing and able to change much more quickly than GM. After all, I had already learned my lesson that change is good. So as I hope you can see, animation and innovation work well together. I'm especially pleased to be able to bring this message to an audience that has a number of young people here tonight. After all, you are going to be the innovators of tomorrow, and you're going to be finding that tomorrow is increasingly about change. The same computer technology that has transformed my industry is actually going to transform your lives. And so I'm hoping you will actually be able to learn early on, and maybe just a smidge less dramatically, the lesson that I didn't learn until I was in my 40s, and that is change is good. Don't be afraid of it. Seek it out. Whatever the change, whether it involves going from elementary school to middle school, from high school to college, from Disney to DreamWorks, you will find that it nearly always leads to growth and to discovery. And change is absolutely essential if you're going to choose the path of innovation. If you do head in that direction, keep in mind that to be an innovator, you actually don't have to be an Einstein. Rather, innovation can be as simple as a staircase. All you need to do is follow where it leads.
What do you enjoy doing when you're away from work? What are the things that you're working on, you care about, that keep you energized?
Well, again, I'm sort of the sort of opposite of Hollywood stories in this. I have just the greatest wife in the world, been happily married. It's our 35th anniversary next month. We got two of the most amazing kids. My kids who are they got their mom's looks and brains, and they got my work ethic. So they're on fire. And there's a wonderful expression, which is you're only as happy as your least happy child. And I have to say, I am blessed to have two amazing children. They are the product of their mom's amazing dedication to them. They are both box office blockbusters and Academy Award winners all in one in it. And, so great pride in that, and, they've now become good friends.
Well, I understand you have a son that's in the entertainment industry. Can you talk about the challenges that brings?
Yeah, I think growing up in the movie business with the last name of Katzenberg probably is not the easiest thing in the world. And I have to say, been very gracious and sort of found my son has found his own path. I said to him when he graduated from college and he studied film, as always, every free moment has worked for Jerry Bruckheimer and Mark Burnett and the great producers, and worked for Michael Bay, the director, and has really been ambitious about learning about the business. And I said to him, go make something. The most important thing you do is actually just make a little piece of film. And so he got together with a friend, and they wrote and produced and directed a little 8 or 10 minute short film. And they did it with their own money. And, he went and, everywhere he could to get people to help him out and loan him equipment and this and that. And he made it, and he sent it around, and MTV saw it, and they called him up and said, could you maybe make a half-hour, could you write a half-hour script for a TV series? He said, yeah, sure. So they wrote a script. He sent the script in. They said, well, that's good. And why don't you shoot the pilot for it? And they shot the pilot, and they tested it. It tested great. They loved it. And they just ordered 13 episodes of it. And honestly, I have not had anything that miraculous happen to me in my career. And I said to him about 6 weeks or so ago, just before he started shooting the series, I said to him, David, for your whole life, I know every step along the way, all you have ever heard is, when you were 16 years old, oh, you know what your dad was doing when he was 16 years old? He was working for Mayor Lindsay, and, when he was 18 years old, he'd moved out of the house and was doing this. I said, every step along the way, all you've ever done, you've always been gracious, you've always sort of, just sort of said, yeah, that's great, and this. I said, but I want you to know that of all the things that I had done by the time I was 26 years old, there was actually nothing as good as creating and making my own TV series in it. So you've just clocked me good. And it's a wonderful conversation for a father to be able to have with his son.